Hello and welcome to Alfie Ordinary's Living Legends, the show where we'll be getting to know some of the most celebrated drag performers of past, present and future. I'm your host, Alfie Ordinary, and I'll be sitting down with UK drag royalty to talk big gigs, big wigs and what it really means to be a living legend. And speaking of living legends, Gateau Chocolat is the Olivier-Award winning drag queen who has toured the world with their unique and incredible style of drag. Their unique blend of drag and opera has been seen on stages in world-renowned venues like the Shakespeare's Globe, the Royal Albert Hall, the National Theatre and the Sydney Opera House. Hello, Gateau Chocolat.
Hi.
It's an absolute honour to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
How are you?
I am good. I think.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. Well, you look absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
And I'm a fan of a heavy fringe. Let me say that.
That's a heavy fringe.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
You've got bangs as well, babe.
I do. I know. I grew them myself. Thank you. Now there are so many amazing things that you've done. I'm so excited to talk about your incredible career, your incredible journey. But I just want to start at the beginning, I guess. Yes. How did you start?
I moved to Brighton in 2000 to go to, I was at Sussex University studying law, and I discovered Thursday nights at the Joint in Brighton, a club night called Dynamite Boogaloo. And Dynamite Boogaloo was a bit of like going down into the Narnia wardrobe or Alice's rabbit hole, because at every Thursday at 12:30 they had cabaret with Boogaloo Stew, Dolly Rocket and Dynamite Sal on the records. And it was kind of life-enhancing, really joyful, really stupid cabaret. And so seeing those sort of cartoony figures do this was like, oh wow, this is excellent. And little did I know that they had seeded what eventually I became on this club night every Thursday. You know, I went every single Thursday of my 3 years studying law at Sussex University. Extraordinary.
I love how big and small the drag world is. Like, I worked with Dolly Rocket at Proud, and she was one of the first cabaret performers I ever met, and she said this incredible, and I was shocked to find out that it was Dolly that...
It was Dolly.
I know, it was always Dolly.
It was Dolly. Dolly was walking past. So what would happen, the lady who ran Dynamite Boogaloo was called Debbie, and Debbie was as hard as fucking nails. She would literally, she would walk them through the crowd, and she'd walk them back through the crowd. So I was on the dance floor. I remember what I was singing. It was Madonna's Hollywood. Everybody goes to Hollywood. And Dolly heard me and she went, oh, look at you. And that was kind of how my relationship started with them, because she noticed and she heard me singing. And then Boogaloo, she went on holiday and she asked, hey, do you want to join me and do a song? And I did it, but just as me in my party clothes. And then it grew. They wanted me to do more and more. And then I just sort of became part of the troupe. And it was so brilliant. Really great.
So you have one of the most amazing, incredible vocal talents. Why drag? Like, when did the drag come as part of that? How did that happen?
Well, I think the goal was to somehow find a way to make performance my subsistence, how I made a living. I think that has always been part of my plan. So going through university, kind of stuck doing this law degree that was kind of part of my prescription, being a British Nigerian, and that's what we do, is either lawyer, doctor, engineer. I'd always still held on to the possibility that I could make some sort of performance my living. I didn't know how it was going to happen, and also like how I've ended up here, there's no roadmap or book or there's no definitive. I really honestly feel like sometimes it's all sliding doors and okay, here I am.
You kind of just you say yes.
Yeah, just say yes.
I'll go there, I'll go there,
Yeah, one of my my mentors, who's no longer with us, Adrian Howells, had a phrase, it's all allowed. And that just granted or gifted me the permission to just kind of go, okay, sure, Boogaloo, I'll do that. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll do it with lipstick now. Oh yeah, sure, okay, I'll do Circle of Life. Oh yeah, brilliant. So it was all kind of yeses that led to opportunities that birthed other opportunities, but there was no kind of plan to be a drag queen. It was more birthed from wanting to be a performer, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so you talk about Adrian Howells as one of
Yes.
your big influences, and you also mentioned Johnny Wu and Taylor Mack as a big influence. And you said that their drag was never about female impersonation, and that's what drew you to them.
Yeah.
What is it about alternative drag that resonates with you?
Well, I think the really interesting thing about understanding or still understanding the kind of performer I wanted to be was I think I was looking for a way to express truths of my reality. And so the drag was not about female impersonation. It became about a vehicle to be human, to be earnest, to have some really interesting and sometimes difficult conversations. And seeing them quite early on in my formative years of trying to work out what all of this was going to be was pivotal, because then they really influence. I keep on coming back to this thing of permission. They give you a permission you don't even know that you're looking for. So I felt like I was suddenly allowed to do something.
There's a freedom. There's a weird freedom. I mean, I feel quite constricted now with different bits of elastic and a wig, but there's a freedom to when you allow yourself to break down barriers and norms.
Yeah, and I think kind of conversations around diversity are sometimes really myopic and muted, because people approach them like it's a box ticking exercise, as opposed to actually the function of that is to curate the imagination of people who haven't seen themselves in that space. So if I'm obsessed with watching black opera singers on YouTube, Jessie Norman, Leontine Price singing on the Met stage, because them just existing means, oh my God, there's a space for me. This is also for me. And I think that is something that I also understand is part of my responsibility as a black British Nigerian performer who's queer. That the permission that people gifted me in the past, I would like someone to be gifted that permission by seeing me do this, whatever this is.
Yeah, I mean, visibility is very important, isn't it? And did you have anyone that you could look up to that you could see yourself in?
No, no, because I think I think the really interesting thing about our community, LGBTQ plus, is that there is still the very centralized ideas of what the paradigm is. And a lot of people don't understand that a lot of people are divergent from that paradigm. So there's a level of invisibility even within our community. And so you just have to find the courage to go, yeah, I'm still just gonna do that. But I don't know, in terms of performance style, definitely with Johnny Wu and Taylor Mack and Paul Kapsis and Adrian Howells. But in terms of my colour or my size or what I ended up doing, I can't think of anyone. No, I can't actually.
So without seeing yourself, how did you become the person that you wanted to see?
I think that when you live as a marginalised identity, you seek permission always. You just become adept at looking at trying to find permission in everything, so I think it's just kind of making mistakes and just finding chutzpah to go, yeah, I'm going to try that, yeah, I'm going to do that. And actually, just referencing your question about how I arrived at this sort of drag, I think for a very long time, growing up as well, back in Nigeria and then moving back here, I actually feel like I became adept at the art of ninja drag, because if you're a marginalized identity, you have to have quite an interesting and intimate control of the space you inhabit. And that means when I go to work, this is the black person they want to see. Or when I go to this place, this is the gay person I need to perform. So you're never not all those things. And I think, weirdly, that kind of was an education in how I ended up being a drag performer, because it was so natural to kind of understand the different identities that I learned to play.
You're performing different versions of yourself already.
Already, all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So I just became, and then what the drag then became was the opportunity to be just human, because I had agency in that moment of actually then becoming this thing. But in this moment, I'm just fully myself.
Yeah.
I'm able to go, okay, let's have these conversations now without having to perform my blackness or my gayness, or I'm all those things at once. In this space, I can be all those things at the same time. And that was, and I think that was what was so liberating, to arrive at, like, oh God, okay, sure, let's do it, you know?
I mean, I've seen your shows many times, and now as an audience member, you sit there and you can, from one moment, there's shivers going down your spine, the next moment you're crying, the next minute you are on the floor laughing. I'm talking about, as an audience member, I am laughing and crying, and all these things. How as an artist are you able to do that with your audience?
I think I fully embrace the reality that I'm a clown, an absolute idiot, a lot of the time. So that also just gives me permission to do anything and go anywhere. And when I arrived at my first show, when I decided, okay, I can have this conversation or whatever it is I wanted to say, I had seen some extraordinary performers do the most incredible things with audiences. And so that was my focus. My focus was, what do you want to say, and how do you want to say it, and how do you want to make people feel? And I understood quite early on that I wanted to underline commonality. I didn't want you to look and still see black or fat or gay or whatever. I wanted you to go, that is my story as well.
I love what you said about feeling like a clown.
Yeah.
I think there's something really gorgeous that you can do with clowning and drag, where you can break down the barriers between performer and audience, and then be able to have a conversation with them.
Absolutely. I think when you are a clown, or when you lean into clowning, and from the laugh, you have the laugh, I think, opens the brain, the ears, the heart, so that you can control the conversation.
Yeah.
But you can go, now you're ready. Because I think laughing is still a heightened, sure, it's fun, but I think it's still a heightened emotional response.
Yeah.
So you're not sitting at zero.
Yeah.
So laughing puts you in a space where you're like, okay, they're open. And then you can go, okay. So, you know. Yeah,
and you've got such a great control over your clowning. It can literally be like a hair, and it's suddenly, and then the next moment
we're in something else.
Yeah, it's incredible. You dipped your toe slightly into what we would call maybe the traditional drag circuit. I'm fed up of being, it's alternative drag, it's this drag, it's all drag.
It's all drag.
But you know, what would maybe be known as the traditional drag circuit.
Yes.
And you entered Drag Idol, didn't you?
That is correct. I did. I got disqualified because I went to Glastonbury.
Right.
And the dates of Glastonbury was my final heat.
Oh, I see.
And so they're like, you didn't do, so you're out. But then I came back and Titty LaCamp said, well, you know, yeah, you missed your heat, so why don't you just come and guest in the final, which was guest in the final was so crazy. It was like, what? But so I came on and I think I did like 5 minutes, but I only did Ness and Dorma and this. And it was like, oh, thank you.
Oh, you walked in.
Yes,
did that.
just walk in, just a bit of Ness and Dorma, and then Richard Tisler Camp was one of the performers that I met on that scene, who was just so generous, so generous in this way that I find some of our old drag performers are the curators of our history. Like, they welcome you with such a magnanimity about, this is what you can do, you should try this. And I think that was what Titi LaCamp was doing about inviting me to perform in the final. It wasn't so much about, come in. It was about, you're new, and I still think that you should be part of this space.
You speak very fondly about Glastonbury. I've never been. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
I had never been to Glastonbury until that first one.
Right, okay.
And it was a sort of baptism by fire, really, because it it was a bit of a religious experience. I mean, we saw Amy Winehouse, we saw Shirley Bassey. We created this most extraordinary performance clubbing space that was about love and hedonism and joy. And yeah, there was a really, when our community do what our community can do, we are really unstoppable. It was a place of love and joy, and there are very, very few moments in my entire life where I haven't felt black or gay or fat or whatever, and that was one of them. Like, I'm literally just existing. I think, again, what my drag became about is the fatigue from always being a human doing as opposed to a human being. And in Glastonbury, I was just being. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna do everything that I am, because I don't have to turn anything else down. It's pretty extraordinary space.
So Glastonbury was 2007.
2007.
You told me that 2008 was a pivotal year for you in terms of your career.
Yes, it was. You know, after Glastonbury, it's so interesting, we tried to recreate a lot of what we did in Glastonbury in London, and that was either Horse Meat Disco or area late night. So we'd formed quite a special bond, and from that kind of offshoot relationships, I got really close to Johnny Woo, got really close to Rhiannon Styles, got really close to, we just splintered off.
Yeah.
And Rhiannon Styles was working with a performer called Empress Star, circus neo cabaret performer.
Yeah.
I met her and she said, let's go to Adelaide. Which I just think about now as, again, really surreal. Mm-hmm. Like, this thing about gifting yourself permission to just do things.
Just go and do it, say yes.
Yeah. I said yes. That's quite funny, actually, because in Glastonbury, one of our big performance numbers was Liza Minnelli's Yes. Say yes. Yes. So I went to Australia and did Adelaide Fringe in 2008. Mm-hmm. Like, I just said yes. That was a sliding doors moment that changed everything.
And saying yes a lot meant you had a very busy August 2008, didn't
Yes.
it?
August 2008 was my very first Edinburgh festival.
Yeah.
And because in February, I met Strut and Fret, and Strut and Fret were touring a show called Feasting on Flesh. Mm-hmm. So they flew me back to do Feasting on Flesh in July. And at that point in July, that was all that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But the show went really, really well in July, that they said, we will take the show to Edinburgh in August.
Wow.
But I was like, hey, I can't do the show in August because in the 6 months between February and July, I auditioned for an opera and I got it. I was like, oh my God, I'm actually going to do some theatre. I'm going to do it. And they're like, no, we still need you to do this show. I'm like, well, I'm rehearsing in August. There's nothing I can do. And Scott Maidman said, I'll make it happen. Just do whatever you need to do. What that translated as was doing a show in Edinburgh every night of August 2008. And rehearsing in London from 10 to 6 for every day in August 2008. So I was flying twice a day.
Oh my.
I would wake up at 5 a.m., fly to London, get Gatwick to London Bridge. I was rehearsing at the Jerwood Space. I would do 10 to 6, trying to remember the music, all this. It was a very, very complicated opera. I was a cat. And then at 6 o'clock, they would release me. I'd run to London Bridge Station. I'd get the train to Gatwick. And I would fly to Edinburgh, and I would get into the cab. I put my makeup on in the cab, change my costume. I arrive at the theatre with Ashley waiting with a speaker, a microphone.
Straight on stage.
All of August.
Oh my gosh.
What? That's the in times of just say yes. That is one of the times that I have said yes. That has led to the most ridiculous, complicated, how? What? That is crazy. I think about it now, I'm like, that's crazy. That's crazy. You're crazy.
Was it worth it?
It was worth
Yeah,
it because
absolutely.
the opera was really great. We toured and then the tour ended up at the Royal Opera House, and I got to meet the Royal Opera Group and this director called John Full James. It was great. It was so great because that relationship and that production also taught me so many things. And this is the thing about saying yes. I know that August 2008 was crazy, but still holding Strauss and Fret as well as holding the opera meant the intersectionality gave me so many more skills. I just learned a lot. So, I mean, I don't think I'd ever do it again. It's a bit it's a bit like going to Glastonbury the year after, going, that's actually
Yeah,
poo.
I did this.
Yeah,
Oh.
no. So I wouldn't do it again. But when I did do it, it was I learned so much. I grew so much.
So was it Adelaide Fringe that led to you working with the Clique?
Yes, it was
Yeah.
actually. So because of this Club Cascadeur, the nightly thing being post everything finishing, it became not just for it's this really interesting space of it wasn't really for punters in Adelaide. It was for performers.
Yeah.
So it was always this kind of gifting exchange of people just coming to watch other performers.
Yeah.
And that is where Le Clique saw me.
Yeah.
But I didn't meet them till 2009.
Right.
February. I don't know what's going on in February. But a year later, I met them in February and they invited me to perform in their show, which had just had a smash season in Edinburgh 2008. There was this whole kind of... It's so interesting that then, that was a massive platform for me and I learned a lot from being in that show. But I didn't meet them to the February 2009. And how they audition you for the show is they give you a guest spot and they see how you work in the lineup of the other kind of circus cabaret performers. And I did that in February, and then I got a long stint April, May, June with them, and I toured with them ever since. Yeah, it was incredible. It was really special.
And it was through Le Clique that you won your Olivier-Award,
yes,
wasn't it?
indeed.
Can you tell us about that night?
So I had done another opera with Regent's Park Open Air Theatre. We'd done Porgy and Bess, and it was nominated for Best Revival.
Right.
And it was at the Royal Opera House. And when the nominations came out, I heard that Le Clique was nominated as well, which is so brilliant because Brett and Chris and our producer Mark Rubenstein are wonderful people, and the show was so about family. It was really, really special. So Brett was there. Brett was there on that night in April at the Royal Opera House, and we were just about to go on to perform our excerpt from Porgy and Bess. It ain't necessarily so. And somehow, because the planets love to fuck with you, the award for Best Entertainment was announced just before Porgy and Bess. So, and that was our category.
Yeah.
So they went Le Clique, and Brett came on, and I was like standing ready to go. I was I don't know what to do, who to be. And then Brett came off, and Brett saw me because Brett didn't know that I was going to be going on.
Right.
Brett saw me and literally just burst out in tears, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, but the music is." It was so surreal. It was really, really, really. When sometimes planets just align and then the most ridiculous thing happens. It was like, fuck, this is crazy. This is crazy. This is just magic. So, yeah, that was really, really special to do Porgy and Bess at the Royal Opera House stage as part of this performance at the Oliviers, and then for Brett to win the award for our show was like, what? Really, really magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good.
You produced and wrote a kids show.
Yes.
Didn't you? Called Ducky.
I did.
How was that? How was it?
Ducky was born out of necessity. I'd done this gig in Colchester at the Colchester Arts Centre with a guy who I've worked with before called Anthony. Anthony's the artistic director there. And every year he does this thing that he hosts, really kind of dad jokey way, really, really, really naff. But like, yeah, okay, go. Yeah. And he asked me to perform in this one. It's kind of a family show. And he put me on at the end of the bill. And I performed. I was just waiting to get to my spot. But when I came on stage, in between the first seat and the end of the stage, in that bank that's normally empty, there were about 30 kids.
Oh my God.
I was like, okay, sure. Okay, yeah. So I was doing a lip sync. I used to do this lip sync that was Susan Boyle's.
I've seen it,
yes,
yeah.
Them, a thing, and then going into I Dreamed a Dream. So all through I Dreamed a Dream, I was thinking, okay. So I Dreamed a Dream finished. I took my shoes off and I went and sat with the kids. And I was like, hey, what do you do? How old are you? Oh my God, is that ballet? And I had this conversation with them. And because I normally, then I travel with all my music on my iPod, I completely changed my my set. I think I had Hopelessly Devoted to You on there. I had Beauty and the Beast, and I heard had Nothing Compares to You. And we did this weird, the kids started doing ballet, some child got their ribbon out, we went and hugged the parents. I was like, and it was so...
So another one of those moments where the universe went, now you're doing this.
And I was like, and my heels were this really odd picture of my heels on stage. Because that's what, I just... for me, just now, thinking about it, it feels like me taking my heels off was kind of like, okay, so I'm not going to be a drag queen now. I'm just going to be your aunt. And I'm going to go into... And so it just happened to be this really brilliant moment. Anyway, the next day, Anthony called me and said, I think you should make a kid show. So I've got £1,000. I'm going to call Cambridge Theatre and I'm going to get them to give you another £1,000. And I'm going to call Norfolk and I'm going to get them, we'll get you 3,000. Go, make a show. So at that point, I thought, I'm just going to do a Disney princess sing-alongy thing.
Right.
And then my sister moved back here with my niece. And my niece started in school. And then this is the conversation we had about what diversity and representation means. Because I had a heartbreaking conversation with my niece about the questions she was getting in school in terms of her nose and her hair. And kids are just curious. And the interesting thing about what was happening to my niece, I think she was 3, having grown up having gotten to 3 in Nigeria, she wasn't black. Here, she was. So when you become racialized, your reality completely changes. And so it became important to me to hold that story, which is why I ended up making Ducky. So in Ducky, in our version of Ducky, which is set in circus, Ducky doesn't become a swan because I think that that fairy tale, that element of the fairy tale is problematic because it speaks to beauty. And it also speaks to something that I think is really dangerous, which is because you've been through some adverse conditions or trauma, you're immediately handed a medal or a trophy. And the heartbreaking reality is sometimes that's all there is. No one is going to make you into a swan. There's no magic. That's not going to happen. And so I had to find a way to gift my niece permission that I hadn't seen with the opera singers that had gifted me that permission. And I was like, I could do the princess sing-along Disney songs, or I could do this. At the time, the hashtag It Gets Better was trending. It was around then. And I remember seeing all these people from Pixar, and I think Hillary Clinton did one as well. And I was like, I don't want to be a pessimist. I want to be a realist, and I want to prepare her. Sometimes it doesn't get better. And it starts with understanding that you are enough, because getting better isn't a magic wand that happens after you've been bullied in school. Getting better is about leaning into the fullness of who you are and being unapologetic about it. And that's something I had to teach myself, but I had to also mute myself because I had to be something for my niece. So that's how Ducky was born. And I was like, great. I went on tour with it. I then did it at the South Bank and we got some Arts Council funding and then it became what it became. So yeah, kids shows. What? Now, that's what I mean. It's all kind of just yes. Yeah. Saying yes meant I made a kids show from a thing that happened by mistake. So yeah, let's do it. Weird.
Yeah.
Weird. Just say yes. Just say yes.
As Liza.
Say yes.
So one of the shows I've seen you do many times actually is Night at the Musicals.
Yes.
Which is just kind of like, it's a camp, you know, it's a romps with Johnny Woo. You're going through all the musicals. It's incredible.
It's so much fun.
It's so much fun. So much fun. And you've done that all over the world.
Yes.
You know, you've performed it in all sorts of places.
Yes.
And you took it to South Africa in 2019, didn't you?
Correct.
How did that go?
So, just to give you a little brief history, Johnny and I made A Night of the Musicals again by mistake because Bistrotech, you know how we're losing spaces to play? Bistrotech had a downstairs space in the restaurant that was a cabaret space, and they gave us Thursday, Friday, Saturdays over 6 months to do whatever we wanted to do. So this is precisely how the show was. Johnny there, me there, 2 wicker chairs and our computer with the cable, and we just put together a musical theatre playlist.
Right.
And with an audience there, we start singing a song and we're going, actually, I don't like this one, change it. I don't know the words. What do you want to hear? That is literally how we built musical theatre. It was literally framed around our friendship and being idiots. But then, when Johnny opened The Glory, which was 2015, I believe, we got together again and just revived the show. And we took it to, the first place we took it to was Adelaide.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
2016, February, we went back to Adelaide with it. And we had the most extraordinary time. It was like, not only did it sell well, and I think, you know, having done so many solo shows, the great thing about musicals was having the joy of a friend on stage, and we could lean into each other. And because it was framed around our friendship, we knew trigger points and idiocy and being idiots. So that was a joy. And we went everywhere with it, including South Africa in 2019. And everywhere we've played in the world, to a certain degree, it always has the same beats.
Yeah.
Theatrically, dramaturgically, this is what the show does. At this point, it does it. Maybe it's a 2 here, but it does it. Maybe it's a 9 there, but it does it.
Yeah.
And in South Africa, on opening night, there's a bit in the Phantom of the Opera where I sing something like a scream, and that always gets like a or a nothing. And then the light comes up on Johnny, and Johnny is the Phantom, but as Darth Vader. Nothing. And then we go into the chat. Nothing. And then Johnny goes to do his quick change, which is to do the lip sync at the end of the day. And this is how I knew something was up. I got to the dressing room, and the platter. Johnny is very careful about how much he drinks now. I got to the dressing room and the wine was open and Johnny had a swig. And I was like, okay, so that's where we are. So I then do my quick change. I came to watch Johnny doing his lip sync to Les Mis. Nothing. And then I did my bit. Nothing.
And this is a room full of people.
A room full of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Johnny and I spend the rest of it kind of going, okay, what's going on here? And so apartheid ended in 1994. 1994, in relation to where we are now, is literally yesterday. It's like history still happening now. On stage, like there was one, when we had a moment, Johnny was like, have you, that guy hasn't looked at the stage once. He's in the second row and he spent the entire time looking. And then we would always go outside to do pictures with the people who've seen the show.
Yeah.
And I stood on this side and Johnny stood here. And I was invisible. They would always do pictures. And I just said to Johnny, look out for it. So when I said to Johnny, the next day, because I didn't want to go like, is this what is happening?
Yeah.
Is this what is happening? So then Johnny and I pivoted from just doing musicals to really understanding what and where we were. It was.
And you were there for 3 weeks.
3 weeks. It was the most, and I'm so thankful. You know what I said about doing musicals and literally being framed around our friendship. I'm so thankful that we were friends because that is the only way we were able to get through something as extraordinary as it was. You know, it was really like the most extraordinary thing. It's almost the antithesis of Glastonbury, because on that stage in South Africa, I was all the things that are problematic. One of the reviews said, Johnny Woo has a body that Kate Moss would die for. Gateau Chocolat has a body that Kate Moss would die if she had.
Whoa.
That gives you an insight into the sort of relationship we had on stage. It was very, very problematic. So, yeah, that was a massive lesson to learn, and learn live as well in front of an audience that we thought, guys, it's musical theatre and drag.
Yeah.
Let's have a laugh. No, okay, you don't want to do that.
Oh, well.
Great. Now I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've done so much in your career already, and I feel like there is still so much more to come. What's coming up in the future? I'm talking about like in the distant future. I want to know if you carry on saying yes, what are you going to do?
That's an extraordinary thing. I think because all of it has been a roller coaster, and a lot of it has been a mistake, and a lot of it is just from saying yes, it could end up anywhere. And that is what I'm excited about.
Exciting.
The possibility of ending up anywhere. And that is in the face of still adversity. You know, part of that dream was scaffolded by the Arts Council. Last year, when the pandemic happened, I successfully got some money from the Arts Council.
Yes.
Yeah, which was really wonderful. And that money was about scaffolding all that work.
Yeah.
It was an orchestra. It was costume makers making this new show Pandora, and the press framed it as me being black gay drag queen. Why should I get that? But that is not what that's about.
No,
it's about scaffolding all the work that I've already done and will continue to do, and that means working with orchestras, working in making a full-scale opera.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that is the thing. I just haven't so far been. I don't think I've been limited. I try not to limit myself because none of these parameters are things that I knew. So I just kind of keep saying yes.
Yeah.
Say yes. Yes. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm just saying yes. I said yes to this. I said yes to this.
And this has been wonderful.
This has been wonderful.
Ooh.
So yeah, I think I've learned a lot and grown a lot by saying yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so say yes. And
Say
on that note, we're going to have to end it there. And thank you so much.
My pleasure so
for
much.
saying yes.
Yes.
It's been an absolute honour and wonderful to have you.
Thank you so much for having
and to
me.
hear your story. And I cannot wait to see what you do in the future, with including Say Yes. Can we say it one more time?
Say yes.
Say yes. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been here with Gateau Chocolat. I've been Alfie Ordinary. You've been fabulous. I want you to stay fabulous. I want you to stay safe. I want you to love each other. And I want you to love yourselves. Lots of love. Bye-bye. Bye.